So I probably put the fact I was going to talk in the title, and I imagine that was not a surprise at all. But welcome to my first proper attempt at a voiceover. Hopefully this doesn't sound too awful or awkward, because it does feel a little unnatural to be talking out into some kind of digital void. So I'm sorry if this video ends up a little bit rambly. Ideally I'd like to make it about 10 minutes, but we'll see if I can talk for that long. So just bear with me. I guess I'll do a quick introduction of myself first. I'm Steph, I'm 25, and I'm from Scotland, as you can probably hear from the accent. I'm a freelance artist by night, but the stuff I upload to this channel is just some of my personal work that I record. And I always thought about doing voiceovers for this channel. Tried testing it out a few times, but could never get all my programs to work together nicely. Like, I use Camtasia, which is all good for screen recording and editing, but Microsoft's own voice recorder is a pain with its weird file types. And I don't even have a microphone anymore, so I'm trying to see how it'll work recording video on my phone. I was always a bit hesitant too, since my accent's quite strong, and I knew the editing process would be hell since I'd have to listen back to my own voice. But if you're listening to this now, then I overcame it eventually, somehow. But yeah, I was pretty determined to do a voiceover after I hit 1,000 subscribers, and I thought this painting would be a nice one to do for that, since it's a repaint of what I recorded for my first video, which is also my most popular by miles. And that original piece actually started out as a gift for someone on DeviantArt back in 2012, I think. They were the 100th person to watch me, as far as I remember. So I messaged them, sort of saying, hey, as a wee gift, I'd like to give you an art request. And I can't remember what the reply was exactly. But basically they said just more Madness Returns fan art would be cool. And I guess they'd followed me for that fan art I'd already done. And I think they'd mentioned they'd like to see her in either her Hysteria mode, or one of her alternate dresses. Because I remember trying to draw her in the Queen of Hearts Royal Palace sort of dress, whatever you call it, I'm not sure, being chased by the giant Queen Guard with a spinning scythe. One of those I can't see where I'm going chases that everyone loves in video games. Although, at least at the end, you really satisfyingly get to crush him. But yeah, it was a piece with Alice and that guy, but I scrapped it because I got so frustrated with it. And I think it was beyond, or I thought it was beyond my skill set at the time. And I just couldn't work out why I couldn't make it look good. And I did record that, but unfortunately lost the footage at the start of this year. Because I dropped my hard drive, which is super sad. And that would have been a nice little something to pop on the end of this video. So yeah, the original 2012 piece was my second attempt at this gift art. And I went with something where I thought, perspective and multiple characters didn't work for me first time, so I'll go straight back to the comfort zone of having one character and thinking about background later. Which I used to be so guilty of, but I would encourage that if you want to get better quicker. And I remember being so proud of how it turned out at the time, but looking back, it's like, oh boy, you can really tell the background was an afterthought, because despite the fact it's just a texture taken from the internet, which, I'm not knocking, by the way, I still do it, and it's very useful. But despite that fact, the perspective is so warped and doesn't actually match the perspective from which we're viewing the character. Like, I was so lazy about the background, I just threw down a texture using the perspective tool and thought, good enough. And it means that the floor almost looks like it's tilting towards us. And I'm sure there's a level like that. I think it's during Fortress of Doors or the sort of creepy school level in the original American McGee's Alice game, but unfortunately that wasn't the point of the drawing. I feel like this time round, although I'm still basically just using a flat texture for the floor, it looks much better, and the character actually looks like she's standing firmly on the floor. I also feel like the anatomy and the pose and the perspective on Alice is also much better. And I guess you'd hope so after 6 years of constant practice. Um, I also feel like my ability to understand material and movement and weight definitely actually exists this time round. And that was helped by the fact I took a bunch of reference of myself jumping and spinning about with a dress on in order to capture the kind of movement I wanted to recreate in the painting. And that is something I would fully recommend. You know, if you can't find the references you want or you need online, then just make them yourself. And I know some people, including past me, can be put off taking pictures of themselves for reference because they may not have the right body shape or whatever, but I think it's important to remember that it's not necessarily a study, it's just a loose reference and you don't have to copy, the photo that you're taken from. And I think it was Miles Johnson who did a workshop or a class online a few years back about how to reference properly and not copy. And it was about identifying and lifting things you liked or want to convey in your own piece from that reference, whether it be light or shapes or palette, negative space, anything, honestly, anything. Because there's so much more you can take from reference pictures if you start to break down what it is you like about them. And I find that really interesting. If it's something you struggle with, then I'd recommend checking it out. Although I'm not sure, I think it was paid for. But I've also seen a lot of artists on Twitter doing similar tutorials. Although I honestly couldn't tell you who they were. I tend to see them in passing while scrolling. But weirdly for me, when I first saw that class or whatever it was, the post, it was a total eureka moment. And ever since then, I've started using references as often as I can, which really helped me to improve. And that also translates into when you do draw from imagination. You sort of retain that information that you've learned. And I also started to just keep a reference folder full of images I stumble across and I like for whatever reason. And I'm pretty sure that's a common habit for most artists. I lived with another artist a couple of years ago and we both used ourselves and each other for reference photos. So keep in mind, you can always get friends to post for you too. Like, it's very, very useful. Anyway, I eventually finished the 2012 piece that I think took around 6 hours. So not too long compared to this one that took 18. And I went to message the person it was for, but they had deleted their account. And I was like, no, friend, come back. I made you a thing. And originally, I was going to ask permission to post the video that I'd made. But I sort of figured out at that point they probably wouldn't be too fussed, and I posted it anyway. Although that would have been a very different story if it was their OC or something like that. And I've no idea if they ever saw it, but it would be nice if they did. Also, I'll pop a link to the older piece below and the finished image if you'd like to see for comparison. I'll also put both images side by side at the end of the video so you can see. Because of the way I'm recording this, I'm not sure at what point we're at in the video, but I imagine it'll just be me working into the details at this point. I tend to sketch pretty messily at the start, and if I'm feeling pernickety or if it's a piece for a client where it has to be clear what you're getting, I'll make a line art, but for this one I didn't. I just made some clipping masks under a sketch and used those to pop down colour. I know a lot of people like to delete their sketch for line art, but I tend to merge mine at a low opacity onto each of the clipping masks after I've thrown down some basic colours that sort of allow me to establish light source. And I also keep my sketch untouched on its own hidden layer, sometimes actually in a different file, just in case I mess something up and I want to go back and repaint. It means there's always that comfort of having something to fall back onto and you don't lose the whole sort of amount of progress that you've made. But that's pretty much the only preparation I'll make before starting to paint and work into the details. And because I keep things on separate layers, it allows me to change things way more easily. So this way I could change the dress or delete the blade, anything like that. And it wouldn't be super annoying and finicky to have to go back and deal with again. Again, that's something I like to utilise for client work. And I actually only discovered clipping masks like 3.5 years ago. Like it always bugged me so much when I had a character or whatever I was working on, and I had to keep constantly erasing around them. And a friend of mine at university was watching me work on comic stuff, and they asked why I didn't use them. Then proceeded to show me, what clipping masks were, and I swear, oh my god, I heard angels sing, and okay, that's an exaggeration, but I was so happy. And it's weird that I never ever picked up on that given the amount of painting tutorials I used to watch and read. Maybe they were just never covered because they were common knowledge, like they were part of the basics. Oh, who knows, but using them allowed me to focus more on other parts of the piece I was working on, and just not having the constant cleanup that I was doing before. It's actually quite motivating. Like sometimes I used to sit and think, oh, I want to paint today. And I just thought, no, I can't be bothered, because there was like that constant cleanup that I had to do. But thankfully, clipping masks are a wonderful thing that exist, and that's not an issue anymore. Also, I don't know how to transition into a conclusion. So here we go. Here's the new finished piece and the comparison of both pieces 6 years apart. And overall, I'm super happy with the improvement. Who knows, maybe I'll repaint it again in another 6 years when I'll look back on this one and cringe too. But anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully it wasn't too tedious or rambly. I'd ideally like to make voiceovers a regular on this channel. Hopefully I'll get better. So if you have any suggestions on what you'd like to hear me talk about, or any feedback in general, then feel free to let me know. Again, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and have a great day. Aha! Back again. Didn't think you'd get rid of me that easily, did you? I just wanted to rework this piece a little bit and basically give Alice a new skin based on her rage box mode. Rage mode? Rage box mode? I don't know what you call it. In the original game. And I won't talk over this full recording, but I just wanted to explain what was going on. And I felt it was too short to give its own video. So enjoy and peace out.